Okay, now we're going to look at the code that we wrote to illustrate these ideas in this chapter. And so here you can see this is figure 4.0.1. You can go and find that in the book itself. And what we'll now go do is I'll go visit code checkpoint F40a. And what that means is the fundamental section, part 4, first chapter, the first item, F40a. And so here you can see that idea drawn up as well as I can draw, which is not all that great. But here we have a stack of many images. We filter them and we end up with just the subset of those images. Then we do a map, an operation on them, and we get typically, we get one layer from that. And then we then sift through there in order to, we do a reduction through there and we get a reduced value, so a summarized value. So here's what we'll do. We will go to filter the image collections in Earth Engine. And so the process here, as you'll see, we look first for all of the images ever, and we count up how many there are. There's a number like 1,862,000 images, which we'll show you in just a second. Then I did a filter by date, and that's here. That limited it. If we did just these particular dates, limits it. Filter bounds in a location. We can filter by other metadata, which you see. We can filter in an order. I thought all the filtering at first was, it didn't matter what order you do the filtering in, but Nick Clinton, who's one of the other editors of the book, told me that filtering in a particular order matters, and I'll show you that in just a second. So we'll go and look at that. I'll stretch this out just a little bit. And so here you can see when you have the Earth Engine book repository, you'll see this. And then we go down, that might be closed, and that might be closed when you first open it. So I open it up, go to F4 here, go to F40, and there's F40a. There's that checkpoint. So I'll hit run, and you see it start to compute. Now it runs very quickly for me because I ran it yesterday already. And so some of those answers are held in the cache. So they're already there. And they're waiting for me if I want to hit the button again. So what happens in this run is we can look at it quickly. So when I refer to a bunch of images, it is the Landsat 5 collection 2, the T1 images. We print how many are there by saying image collection and the operation on that dot size. And that's going to give us a very large number. Here I just wrote a very large number because if this number went up by 5 or 6 or down, I didn't want to confuse people. So I just want people to think this is a very large number. Now, how many were collected in the 2000s? If we look down to filter date, that takes 2 strings with a particular layout. Here's the first one, start date. There's start date there. And that has a string that's made like that. 2000, 01, 01, up to 2010, 01, 01. So I guess this, well, that was in the year 2000 up to the end of 2009. So it doesn't include any images from 2010. So we do that, and that gives us, let's see, all images, so-and-so, 644,000. Then we can say, here's an image that I happen to know the name of, the actual identifier of from one of the other chapters. And if you've done anything in section F1, part F1, you'll recognize this image. I think it's in F1.1. And it's just to move us to that location to center the object. It's not it doesn't draw any on the screen. There's no map.add layer down below. It's just to move to that location. And so here we do more filtering of that smaller set. So you saw image collection filtered by date got made here. and it got made from the image collection. The image collection was that. Then we filtered it by date and gave it a name, image collection filtered by date. Now we filter it by the bounds, the location, and it does some radius around the bounds. Well, it takes the actual box of the image that we gave it as the piece, which is set center, and it does that job. It gives us how many images there are here over that time. And I believe that this depends on the size of area that is being exposed by the window that shows the map. So here we got 125. And I think back on this one, I think it was a different number, right? Oh no, it's still 125. But anyway, you might get a number that's different than 125, but the principle is we have all of these images, but most of them are not near Shanghai in China. So only 125 are there from that data set. We can also filter by other types of metadata. We can filter by cloud cover and say, I want less than 50% as a criteria for the metadata. And so that is something that's attached at the level of every image in the same way that the boundary is attached on every image and the date is attached on each image. So this filtering pretty much works on the metadata, which is the data that is attached at the scale of the entire image. I think of it as a list of 40 or 50 things that are at the side of every image when I see them. So we can ask for it, and that gets us L5 filtered low cloud images. And so this whole entire section basically just does that work. So we can, if we want, we can chain together all of those same steps, just like you saw in the milk example. So here we have the image collection, we do filter date, and then you notice it just says dot filter bounds. We do that step. Then before anything else happens, we say dot filter metadata. And then from there, we can print it. And so we print it, and there it is. So it gets printed out, and the size of it is printed. And so the word chained, that's what it's called when you list them one right after the other. And there it is. It gives 83. Now, I mentioned that Nick told me that it's best to filter by bounds because that's the most limiting thing to do. When you have millions of images, most of them are not near where you are. And so filtering by bounds is the most rapidly limiting operation that you can do. And so that's what we get, is we get the same number, 83, but I'm told that that's more efficient. That's how that part works. And so that is the steps from section 1. So these are examples of filters. I believe that if you go here, filter, we can say, if we go to image collection, we can see there's the ability to do filter metadata. So we can ask, okay, what are the kinds of filters that we might do? And we should be able to see filter date here. That's here. Filter, so it's set up ee.filter.date. It's done so often that there's a shortcut in Earth Engine called filter date. But if you wanted to filter for some other type of thing, you might go here to the ee.filter section of the help text and look for it.